Hello, Brad here. Just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm, which means it's almost exactly a week since I completely failed to secure any putty.
Oh, mate, you didn't do very well in the great British putty lottery, did you?
No, I was stood at the train station waiting to go in, and I got a message from my friend, whose whole idea it was to go in, just saying they were just 2 screenshots from the 2 pubs we were considering hitting up, both saying they'd sold out of putty cans and draft.
Wow. Well, that is very sad. So you were planning on coming into central London to get your putt on.
Yeah, even though there was an event within a 10-minute walk of my house.
Oh dear. And did you not think about doubling back to that event, or at that point was your
well, then my friend would have been coming out of London.
Oh right, yeah, but you could have just said to your friend, "Oh, did you still go into London?"
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
right,
I didn't just turn around and go home.
I thought that was the be all and end all, and you just went.
No.
Went
Putty
back.
was secondary to the social occasion.
Fair enough.
And we ended up at the Sutton Arms, which is an amazing pub in Farringdon, which still had lots of lovely Verdant and lots of other stuff on. So we had a great night drinking hazy IPAs and lagers and a lovely export India Porter on cask as well from Verdant.
Nice.
So we had a lovely time, but no putty. Whereas you secured it relatively easy.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Margate. I knew there was a putty launch at Little Swift, which is a brilliant craft beer and wine bar on the front, which has got an incredible array of fridges. You can get your natural wine on there if you want a Johnny, but also just fantastic beers from all around the world. Lots of obviously they've got Augustina in the fridge, mate, so that's why I might hit that place up if I was on a bicycle in the summertime. But they've got all kinds of amazing stuff, including rows and rows of putty, and they had it on keg as well. So I know the management there, and me and my friend started our evening very sensibly with an 8% double IPA.
Yes, Bradley.
And we had a little, we had a can of it each, £10 a can, £10 a can. Yeah. Didn't put it on Craft Beer Channel or anything. Just straight up, just £10 a can.
What?
I didn't have the company card with me, and also
that'll stop you.
I just didn't even consider it because it was a social event. So I thought, well, that's fine. But Johnny, I did go back on Sunday morning, soon as they open, and I've secured us a can. When we next shall meet, we will drink the can.
Wonderful. Keep it cold.
Yeah, I'll keep it cold.
They say it peaks around 2 weeks anyway.
There you go. So yeah, it was tasty amazing. And you know what? We did a little pub crawl, micro pub crawl with some of my oldest school friends. Buff I've known since I was 5 years old, my friend Buff, and the other 2 I've known. I'm saying the other 2. So there's only one other. It was Tim, who I've known since secondary school. And we actually went to visit a third friend who was supposed to be there, but was quite unwell in hospital. So we had a kind of a nice catch up, but it could have been on better circumstances.
Presuming you brought him cans of putty.
He can't drink. He would have loved them, but he can't really drink or eat anything at the moment with what's going on with him.
And I feel like the doctors would have frowned upon it whether he could or couldn't.
Yeah. But so that was nice seeing old friends and whatever. But we also went around Broadstairs, went to a micro pub, micro pub called the
Micro Club. Is that the new hip happening thing in Margate?
That's a
tiny
good idea.
clubs where you can't really dance, sort of elbows tucked in.
I think I've
just way too close to people.
Just invented a new thing there, Johnny. A micro club. We should open a micro club next door to a micro pub, next door to a micro. What else rhymes with pub and club?
Hub.
A hub, Johnny. Like a working hub where you can.
I said dub.
Dub. A micro dub. What's a dub?
Well, I don't know. Listen to dub. I guess that would happen in the club, wouldn't it?
You listen to dub in the micro club. But yeah, there's a place called 39 Steps, which is a micro pub, and it's been there for years. But I went in and they changed management. It used to be quite trad, like lots of cask. It was pretty good. They had an enclosed bar, like kind of wrapped around. Had a kind of Victorian train station vibe inside. Very nice, very nice. Went inside. They had like wicker seats at the bar, Johnny, which I thought was a weird choice, but wicker seats.
Well, like what your gran has in a conservatory.
No, they were like sort of cocktail seats, but like wicker tops, which I thought they're not going to last very long. That's a bold choice.
People are just going to be sat there picking at it, aren't they? Because people are weird. Yeah,
but they also they must have had 20 lines on of keg and a bunch of cask as well. They had like steady, all kinds of like trendy stuff, which they never used to have in there. Plus they had putty on as well. So I was spoiled for choice. I wasn't even looking for it.
If you're wondering where to get your putty from, Kent.
Yeah, go down
it's
there.
It's all in Kent.
They had loads of it. I said, how much is a pint? And I think they said it was 13 quid. Which maybe
it's not bad for an 8%.
Yeah, maybe that's not bad, because I think when I asked in Little Swift it was 15 quid, but they were like, obviously we don't serve it by the pint. That's mental. But it was.
But the Daily Mail would appreciate the research that you did. Is it Daily Mail or the Sun? One of them loves a how much a pint story. When it comes to craft beer.
I mean, you've got to love a how much a pint story, right? My friend.
Well, we're telling one right now.
Yeah, my friend Buff, who we drank putty together. His favourite style of beer is a double IPA, right? Which I think is
a dangerous choice.
I think that's
I respect
bold.
It.
Yeah, he drinks it at home, so he'll drink a double IPA on his own of an evening.
Well, I mean, my friend who I went to try and find putty with, his favourite style is dipper.
Madness.
You know, there's a whole, I think, sort of people that are relatively new to craft. It's sort of the style you pick. It's the one that probably blows your socks off most and gives you something to talk about and be excited about. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a dangerous lifestyle.
I wouldn't even say he considers himself like a craft beer nerd in that respect. But
I don't think these people are nerds. They just enjoy craft beer. They're just casual lovers of good beer.
Yeah. But he's transitioned from drinking lots of Belgium stuff, into dippers. So,
wow, so he's found the only way to possibly increase the ABV.
yeah. Which is wild, isn't it? Like, he'll just sit and drink one of them. He's not drinking like 3 of them a night, but I was like, wow, that is a commitment. So he was like, so if I say, I thought it tasted incredible, as it always does, mango, tropical, citrusy, piney, like a nice piney sort of ness to it as well. And
be really green with the galaxy, lots of that kind of stuff going on. Yeah,
and it's always really exciting. But he thought it was great, but he was like, just tastes like another double IPA, Brad. Don't know what all the fuss is about.
Well, at least he's honest about his passions. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing with putty. With all the love to Verdant, it's probably not even their best dipper.
Yeah,
I think probably Fruit Car or Fruit Car. Yeah, probably Fruit Car. The excitement around it is because it's once a year. It's in the middle of dry January. It's something to look forward to at this time of year.
Yeah,
it's always got a beautiful new label, and potentially there's a triple version on its way. It's people who have missed out on putty, such as myself, shouldn't feel too down. Just get any other Verdant dipper, and it'll be incredible. But
agreed.
It's an exciting exciting event. Whether the Dipper is better than any other Verdant Dipper out there.
I think that's it as well, right? It's because it's January. It's like the worst. It's the worst month, Johnny. January's shit. Let's be honest.
Oh, we all know it.
It's the worst, especially. We're all going to get signed up into the military and all this bollocks. I'm going to be a conscientious objector. I don't think they'll want me.
I missed that. What, who, what are we,
Don't know.
how
I
am
don't know.
I
mean, we're not, surely. We both look old enough to
right.
not, getting it. But you are
I'm
younger
not
than
sure
me.
they do it on how old you look.
Well, maybe.
Because then this new darts player wouldn't be going, and I'm pretty sure he's you need somebody with an eye like that,
Yeah.
And he looks about 40.
So he could be like us. Well, anyway, let's not speculate. But talking of darts players and things like that, just to swiftly move on from that horrendous subject, Johnny. I've been told there's I think he's Steve Davis, the snooker player documentary, which apparently is amazing. Have you heard about this?
No, I mean, is it Gods of Snooker? I heard was amazing. I keep meaning to watch it and haven't got around to it.
Oh, it might be that.
That's quite old. That's like maybe at least a year, maybe 2 years ago that came out.
I don't think it is that then. It must be called something else. Let's have a look.
Steve Davis, he DJs, doesn't he? And stuff. He loves like trance music or something.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I've got it. Maybe I've got it wrong, Johnny. There's a documentary which I've been told to watch, which is about a snooker player who was a really Oh, maybe it's Ronnie O'Sullivan. Is he a snooker player?
There is a new Ronnie O'Sullivan.
How do
documentary out.
Johnny, I don't know anything about sports. How have I just named 2 snooker players?
I'm surprised.
This is the best day of my life, Johnny. I feel like a alpha male that sort of knows about. Oh, it is.
I'm not
snooker,
sure alpha
isn't
males like snooker,
it is
mate.
snooker in it, yeah.
I don't want to puncture that particular.
Damn it. But apparently it's great. The Edge of Everything. It's called The Edge of Everything. I wish I could have. I wish I could have actually watched it and reported back. Maybe I'll do that in the coming weeks. But
I mean, I think you'll like Ronnie.
Yeah,
he's a hell of a character, and one of the, in terms of, lots of idiots are like, oh, snooker's not sport or whatever. But in terms of as a competitor,
yeah,
whether you think snooker is amazing or not, as a competitor, he is one of the greats.
Eye of the tiger
in the world. Yeah. Like one of the most kind of powerful competitors that have ever existed in the world of sport.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do intend to watch that and Gods of Snooker. I used to love snooker. That's strong. My gran used to love snooker.
Yeah.
And when she was alive, when we went there, we would watch quite a lot of snooker together. And when I'd call her, we'd be like, "Have you watched the Snooks?"
Have you watched Snooks? Could we say that snooker is the chess to pool's checkers? Is that a fair assessment? Because pool's fun, isn't it?
I mean, pool is played very competitively as well.
But it's not as complicated. There's only the what
Well, I don't know. There's lots of versions of pool.
Oh yeah, okay. But I mean,
some of them have slightly more complicated because some of them have numbers on, and I'm still not entirely sure what that's about.
Oh yeah. Oh, they do.
Yeah.
You're right. They do. Yeah. I'm going there, Johnny. I'm saying pool is the checkers, and snooker is the chess.
Okay.
The thinking man's game. I don't know. Probably going to offend the pool league in America now.
There's going to be some people at home screaming at this podcast.
Yeah.
Probably pool fans.
Do you know what, Johnny? I went to a micro pub which I haven't been to before. Down near Margs in a place called, I think it's St. Peter's is the area, and it's called the Four Candles. It's the oldest micro pub in that bit of Kent.
Is that a sign on the door?
It's the first
oldest micro pub in this part of Kent.
The first in sort of around Margate Broadstairs area. And you know what? It's a micro brewery as well. It's small. It's like someone's front room, and they've got a trap door in the middle of the room, a winch on the ceiling, and then they winch up the casks. They winch down all of the stuff that they're the grain and everything. I had a pint of Harlequin pale on cask that they brewed there, and it was one of the best pints of cask I've had in a minute. I was not expecting anything, but yeah, it was great.
This is genuine beer content.
I know. I never do
on
it.
a Friday 5 p.m. podcast. We've talked about nothing but beer for 13 minutes and 49 seconds.
We're
this
bucking
is
the trends, man. We are bucking the trends. We haven't even got onto the video yet.
I know. Well, or all the other stuff we've got to get through because you, like, we're going to get a load of emails from Pool and Checkers fans ready for next week. We've got some emails from some slightly concerned listeners about some rants you did last week. But before we get to that, what was the name? Is the brewery called Four Candles?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's called the Four Candles, and I'm guessing the brewery must be called Four Candles. But they've got a brewer that they work with who wasn't in, and I didn't. It was literally like someone's front room, very very nice, very beautiful. I didn't feel like I'd built up the rapport to say, "Can I have a look in your basement yet?" But honestly, I was excited to see what was going on down there because the beer tasted amazing.
Do you know, I feel like I should point out. So in Letchworth, Letchworth Garden City, home of the world's first roundabout.
Oh, what a great!
It's got a blue plaque and everything. There's Garden City Brewery, which is a taproom / pub, and that has a tiny little brewery, just behind the bar. You can't see it from the bar, but through the door. And I've been running a couple of events there. So I did a Christmas beer tasting, where I flogged my books and some other stuff. Anyway, so they brew some beer there. It's all sort of pretty traditional cask, but they do use modern hops and stuff in their blondes and things like that. Anyway, I had their Christmas beer, which is loosely based off of like the Danish sort of amber lagers.
Yeah.
And I started doing this Christmas beer talk. It was tasting good, and somebody piped up and was like, "What's the ABV?" And I was like, "Oh damn, I didn't write that down in my notes." So I turned to the bar and I asked. The brewer was stood behind the bar. I was like, "What's the ABV?" And he sort of said like, "Oh, it's sort of 5-ish."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, you should know that for sure for the tax man." You know, little gag there for the crowd. Turns out he's the tax man.
He is the tax man. Wow. Okay.
So he part owns a pub and a brewery, and also does the tax.
So he knows how to dodge the tax then, essentially.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's well aware of the 0.5 leniency you get.
Yeah.
So if he said 5-ish, he probably means 5.5.
Probably means 8.9 or something on the Richter scale. By the sounds of it, Christmas beer, blimey.
Well, I mean, it was an amber lager served on cask.
Yeah.
With I believe they had a bit of orange peel to it just to make sure it's Christmas.
Nice.
But anyway, the beer there is decent and a decent selection of other stuff. It's not quite a micro pub; it's quite large, but it's good. I just felt I had to defend my local region as well and say we have breweries in unexpected places.
Well, there you go. I think that's a really positive thing, isn't it? That we're both discovering and being patrons of breweries in unexpected places, Johnny.
Indeed, and we'll get on to why that's very important probably when we talk about the video.
Sure will.
Anyway, let's address what happened last week. So last week, you made some pretty outlandish claims, some pretty outlandish comments.
Did I?
You did.
Okay.
You did. I'm wondering which order to tackle this in. In fact, I'm going to start with the musings. Firstly, we decided we wanted to know if you were at high altitude.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Would alcohol affect you differently?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we got an email, with links included to some scientific evidence.
Wow. Okay.
Of whether it would. It came from Michael Piazzoni.
Great name.
And he sent us several links to explain it to us. Essentially, I'm sad to say, it doesn't affect you any different at higher altitudes.
What? Really?
Yeah. All it will do is potentially further impair any cognitive function. So if you're at high altitude, you're already potentially suffering from a lack of oxygen in the blood. And that could exacerbate any feelings of drunkenness you might get. But the altitude itself does not affect the actual potency of the alcohol.
Got you. I'm with you.
And that comes from a study by Dr. Devi Nampia Parampil.
Wow.
Clinical Associate Professor of Rehabilitation Medicine and Media Spokesman for New York University Langone Medical Center.
Wow, that's a real title right there. I wonder if he got to go to that pub in the Andes. That sounded fun.
It would be good, and we'll now know that. So basically, the advice is
don't bother.
Acclimatise.
Yeah, okay.
To the high altitude before you have a beer.
So just stay there longer. Nurse your pint more.
No, I was thinking more like spend 24 hours
spend
up there.
A few hours up there,
don't arrive and go straight to the pub. Arrive, go to bed, wake up. If you're not vomiting, go to the pub.
Do a few star jumps before you have your beer. Try and get...
Oh, right, you want the effect, do you?
No, I don't. Maybe every morning do a few star jumps before you fall over.
Okay.
I don't know. You'd definitely have to work up to star jumps, wouldn't you? You'd have to start with something very low cardio.
I mean, just walking can be a challenge, I think.
Yeah.
At the level in the Andes where we'd be headed to have this can of Guinness.
Were we talking about running uphill when doing small steps, or was that someone else I was talking to about that?
That's somebody else.
Oh, right.
That does not ring a bell.
Apparently that's
me.
the thing. Oh yeah, that was my friend Tim was talking about this. So talking about like going up high places and doing exercise. He was doing a half marathon with a man who sounded like an absolute dickhead. But he asked him what his name was when they were running. I don't think he knew him. And he was like egging him on. And he said, you could do this, Tim. You could do this. He was like running with him. And they came to this hill, which was a very steep hill, as Tim tells the tale. And he said, we're going to do this, Tim. We're going to do this. Small baby steps. Decrease your stride. Make them real small. See how easy we go up this hill. So they took very, very short strides, but rapid up this hill. And they were passing some other poor person who was running up the hill, really out of puff. And this guy who didn't know Tim, but had befriended him, said, look at that effing fool struggling up the hill. You're doing it, Tim. You're really doing it. They were like, he mocked this other runner as he was running past him, which I thought for like a half marathon runner was very aggressive and uncalled for.
It's not in the spirit of running.
It's
that's
not,
for sure.
Is it?
But he is really helping out Tim.
Tim was like, do you know what? The guy was a dick, but he got me pumped up, and he was right.
Right, there you go.
So,
small steps up hills, folks.
Yeah. Small steps up hills.
I'm going to keep us moving because we've got a lot to get through here. We then, I guess the logical conclusion of that is talking about beer in space.
Of course.
And could you drink a beer? Would it feel different to be drinking in space?
Yeah.
I've got even worse news for you.
Oh, come on.
It's scientifically impossible to drink beer in space.
What?
Yeah.
Explain.
So, carbonated beverages present some fairly significant issues in zero-gravity conditions.
Where do the bubbles go? Yeah.
Exactly. So, firstly, the bubbles, when you crack open a can, the bubbles all rush to the surface, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in space.
No. Does it become like a bomb?
They'd stay in solution and it would just become foam.
Oh, wow.
Should you manage to consume any of said carbonated beverage, and I guess this includes, champagne, Perrier water, then it will go inside you, this gas, and then again have nowhere to go.
Oh dear. So it causes all kinds of problems in your bowels and stuff.
You can't really burp in space.
No burping in space. That's a plus. That's a plus, sort of.
Well, not if you've got a lot of gas inside you. It's not.
So does that mean they don't eat lots of farty beans and stuff in space then?
I presume they must have like a low...
Yeah.
What's the word? Roughage diet.
Yeah, low roughage. Yeah. That's interesting. Low fibre diets, maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, so if you tried, you'd probably end up burping up the contents of your stomach in quite a nasty kind of acid refluxy way.
So what you're saying is you shouldn't, but it doesn't mean you couldn't, right?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is you'd be consuming pure foam that would then make you vomit acid.
So what you're saying, it's a Milkapore. So we're taking Radim to space with us as well.
Right, okay.
And we're getting it sponsored
Yeah,
by
I
Budvar.
wonder.
The Czech nation are going to sponsor us on a space flight to be the first idiots to drink foam in space.
I presume it'd be like, do you remember me when I was trying to pour beers in the training centre for the historian that came to have a chat with us, and I was just pouring pure foam and didn't understand why?
Yeah.
It would be like that, but it would have a justification other than my idiocy.
And the foam would be like ectoplasm, just taking over the chamber of the spaceship.
Yeah.
Just shooting out like a sort of foamy snake around the rim. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? It'd be like a sort of Jamiroquai / Michael Jackson 90s video, but with a foamy snake instead of the floor moving or whatever. Did you know Jamiroquai is now becoming cool, Johnny, and lots of rappers are saying that they love Jamiroquai and that they have not been given the credit they deserve for being so funky. It's interesting.
Well, they were great. When was it decided they weren't great?
They weren't particularly cool, were they? They weren't ever perceived as being cool.
Were they not?
Although they would undoubtedly had some great tunes, but I mean, like they had some whack stuff, like that Deeper Underground song with the Godzilla film. That wasn't good. But loads
it had
of
a
amazing.
filthy bass line though.
It did. But all sorts of people. I think is his name something Tyler the Creator or something said he listens to Jamiroquai in his car. Loads of other people. Thundercat would like to record music.
Sorry,
with
why
him.
are we on this? I've just realised I don't understand the link.
Because I said it would be like a Michael Jackson / Jamiroquai video from the 90s, us in space.
Right.
Because you remember they had amazing videos. Like there's a Michael Jackson video, I think it's Scream with his sister, where they're in like a sort of Stark space sort of station floating around, and then Jamiroquai had all kind of spacey stuff going on, and obviously Virtual Insanity, where the floors and ceilings and everything were moving.
Yeah, directed by the guy that did
Jonathan Glazer.
Did the Guinness ads, which I've written about extensively in my upcoming book.
Yeah, Jonathan Glazer, I believe.
Yeah,
who's now done a film called The Zone of Interest, which is coming out soon, which looks really amazing and weird. Yeah, so
Bradley,
go on.
There's another thing you said on last week's podcast.
Come on, what is this?
Elicited a response from Mark. I think Mark Duffett.
Yeah, go on.
He says, well, do you have any clue of the thing that you said that might have upset quite a few people?
Dude, I've been since I got back from Margate. I've just been deep in the man flu. So like, I've got no idea like what I could have said.
You said that driving trains is easy.
Oh yeah, I did, and I sort of stand by that. Yeah, go on.
Well, Mark's going to partly back you here.
Yeah, is he a train driver?
So, well, wait. Let Mark say his piece. Hi, Brad, Johnny. I'm currently training to become a train driver.
Cool.
So I thought I'd give you my 2 cents after Brad's mention of it being an easy job.
Yeah.
It's a well-paid profession, so they receive lots of applications for each vacancy. The recruitment process has many hurdles to get over. Online assessments, situational judgment exercises, assessment days, multiple interviews, and a medical. 6 months of training on the track safety, emergency procedures and traction types, and another 6 to 12 months to get your minimum hours in with a driving instructor and have your final driving test at the end of that. Sounds pretty complicated. But then Mark says, moving a train is pretty simple. But you have to learn the routes that you're going to sign. Oh. Station order, platform length, speed changes, tunnels, viaducts, braking points, crossover speeds. In summary, the process to become a train driver is definitely not easy. However, once qualified, the job is pretty mundane. So the key is keeping your concentration and focus. And now we get to my favourite bit. Seeing how Brad's mind seems to regularly wander off course, it might not be the best career move for him.
Oh, that's very unfair.
Also, as a driver said to me previously, not a good job for creative types of people.
Oh, right, okay. That might be an issue then. But I think
wonder. What he's saying is, it's not that hard a job, although it's hard to get the job. It's not that hard a job unless you are me or you.
Well, he's described himself as a ground astronaut there, with all the testing, the like
Ground astronaut.
yeah, like a kind of rail astronaut. It sounds incredible. It sounds like a Top Gun from what he's described there. I'm not mocking you, by the way.
I'd imagine
I'm
it's
not
very
mocking you.
similar. Yeah.
But it's best of the best, you know. Like, obviously, they can't give it to anyone who's gonna take over the train and go too fast and get rail rage or anything like that, and try and cut up anyone else at a signal. Rail rage. Try and cut anyone at a signal, Johnny. I like the thing where he said you've got to learn about changes in speed. I was like, that was making me think of Top Gun, where they're
crossover
doing
speeds, he says.
oh crossover speeds, where they're
Not
doing
quite sure
like
what a crossover is.
some
but-
sort of rapid decline and then like sort of flipping upside down, like a vectoring fighter jet. With the fucking someone up with the afterburners and then zeroing in on them, and then you're number one. So it sounds like Top Gun, Rail Rage, Top Gun, Rail Academy. With I wonder what their call signs are. That's a whole nother fun area. I hope they get bomber jackets as well. Like
I'm a
Top
bit
Gun.
concerned that this has actually excited you about the idea of being a train driver rather than warning you as far away from it as possible.
Well, I was talking. My friend Tim's son is super into trains, so we were talking a little bit about trains at the weekend, and he said, of course, it's progressed into a fascination with what are they called? Theme park rides as well, roller coasters. And I thought, first time I thought, of course, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's like a real, it's like train, it's like a train ride.
It's like a train if Brad was driving.
It's like a train ride, but it's actually exciting. Although I do love train rides, Johnny. I think that it's a really great way to get around. But I'm alienating the train community.
You are.
But I do, some of the best things I've done are like going down West Coast of America on the Coast Starlight Amtrak. That was incredible.
If you'd taken the trip to Verdun, you'd have seen some of the most exciting railroad tracks in the UK. Truly, truly stunning. You're literally meters from the ocean, just staring out. It's amazing.
I was watching a video last night
Teignmouth.
of a guy. I don't think he knew where he was. It was on Instagram. He's a young guy. He was like, I can't believe how cheap this was. He booked a first class seat on a train through the Alps. He said he was in Austria, but a lot of the comments said, you are in Switzerland, mate. So he didn't know where he was. But it was €25 for this hour-and-a-half train ride, first class in a carriage which looked it was all glass essentially, and it looked incredible. And I thought, fucking hell, that is good value, Johnny. You know, we paid £25 to go to bloody Brighton or something. You know,
it cost me more than that to go the 20 miles into London.
Yeah, wild. It looks beautiful, and I thought that's peak training there, Johnny. That's peak railing right there.
That's peak
fair.
railing.
That's
yeah.
peak fair.
Nice.
Peak fair.
He found it. He got there.
It was good, man. I think I've got newfound respect for the career choice of train driving, and your Top Gun training academies sound lit. I want to know what your call sign is.
You know that was all in your head, though.
No.
The Top Gun, that.
Come on, you don't apply to be a train driver unless you're elite and you've got this need for speed.
Wow, you have turned around on this. Okay.
I'm now going to retrain to be a train driver, Johnny. Although I'm not going to get
please,
through.
Lord, don't.
I'm not getting through any tests.
I will say for people at home that Brad's a pretty responsible driver.
Yeah.
And I would assume the same would apply for trains. But I guess in a car, you've got constant hazards to watch out for, whereas the struggle with the train driver is there's no hazard, so you tune out, and then there is one.
Dude, you're talking...
and that's
what you on about? Leaves on the line? When there's any kind of rain, precipitation at all, that is hazardous, mate. You know. I can remember being stuck on a train when I used to commute. I think it was a snow day. Was it a snow day? Or it was a very leaf heavy day, maybe. And the train...
A windy day.
I can't remember what it... Basically, I was stuck on a train. I had to go to Hither Green because my normal station was shut. And the train couldn't get up the very small incline for about an hour and a half because it couldn't get traction on the line because there were too many leaves.
It's not
or
a
some
hazard,
shit.
though, is it? I
That's
guess unless
pretty
you're coming
hazardous.
down the hill.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. I was talking. We were talking about lifts as well this weekend, Johnny. Because lifts, we were talking about braking there, kind of vaguely, with coming down and not being able to brake because the leaves might stop you. We were talking about our favourite lift manufacturers, Johnny, because this is the sort of stuff I talk about when I'm drunk. And
I'm well aware.
I said to my mate Buff, I was like, it's got to be Otis, hasn't it? It's got to be Otis, the classic. And he knew a lot about lifts, my friend. He's a very intelligent man. And he said...
Is that a measure of intelligence these days?
He knows so much about everything. It's more than I do. I should do a podcast where we bring him on as well. He knows everything. Anyway, we were talking about lifts, and he said, did you know that Otis, the guy that I think he's American, he used to go around America. So the lift, basically, the invention of safe lifts, allowed skyscrapers to be built. It made them functional where you could go above, 15 stories or whatever because you didn't have to walk anymore. So it kind of changed the whole landscape of our cities, the invention of the lift. And Otis used to go around the country in America installing lifts, and then he would ask to demonstrate the power of the lift, the safety of the lift, he would ask them to cut the cables while he was inside it, and he'd purposefully crash the lift, but he invented the braking system that would save him every time. So he really stood by his product, which is amazing. So yeah, he obviously there were earlier lifts that were we didn't have this sort of braking stuff going on, but yeah, Otis, according to my friend, was the man. And again, right, like a Top Gun Daredevil would be like, cut the cable, boys, I'm ready. I stand by it. So I thought that was fascinating.
But obviously there's Schindler's Lift.
Yeah, there are.
I'd be like, is it the same Schindler? Because he did some important stuff too.
He did do some important stuff. I'm not going to speculate on if that's the same Schindler. But yeah, you are right. I can't think of any other lift manufacturers offhand.
No, I think that's it.
We did rattle through a couple when we were drunk, but I can't remember them now.
Well, let's.
They're just vertical. They're vertical trains, aren't they? Let's be honest, Johnny. A lift is a vertical train. It's you used to get lift operators, didn't you? Maybe you still do in fancy hotels. A guy that would press a button and greet you.
Well, do you know lift. I'm staying in a 5-star hotel.
Ah, we've got there
in Egypt.
We've got there. Come on, tell me.
Well, we've skipped over the video.
Go on. We'll go back to the video. I'm interested. I want to know about lifts.
Maybe there'll be a porter.
Yeah, I think there will.
The lift.
There will. Is it like?
Can I say, like your mate who got a £25 ticket through Austria, probably Switzerland?
Yeah.
It's £45 a night. I'm paying in Egypt to stay in a 5-star hotel.
Is that like a historic 5-star hotel? Like I'm thinking.
No, it's not, because there's the very famous one in Luxor called the Winter Palace, which is where Agatha Christie wrote Death on the Nile, and I think
I've definitely seen Michael Palin go
Conan
there,
Doyle
I'm
stayed
sure.
there, and Palin possibly.
Yeah.
I mean that's like £200 a night. Still very cheap for a 5-star hotel.
Yeah,
but clearly beyond my budget.
Yeah.
I'm staying not a little bit out of town, a little bit away from the historic stuff, but still in a 5-star. It's going to be too cold to really take advantage of like the swimming pool by the Nile and stuff.
Really?
But
how cold?
Yeah, 19 degrees.
Dude, come on. What are you talking about? You could definitely go out in that swimming pool.
In 19 degrees?
Yeah.
You're going to be well cold when you get out.
So, worry about that when you get out. You want to get in.
The porter drapes a towel around me.
Exactly. It'll be very dignified, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Anyway, I'm not going to have time for swimming.
No.
Because I'm taking the 4-hour drive up to Abydos to visit the thing that I need to visit for my book. And then the next day I'm having an all-day tour of Luxor and doing it all in one day, which was very much against the advice of the travel company that's organising the tour. They were like, you need 2 days to do this. And I was like, I haven't got 2 days.
Wow.
So I'm doing it all in one.
Have you got like your own private person doing this stuff for you? How's it work?
I've got private tours for both, because it's research. I want to be able to ask questions,
And what sort of setup are we talking? I'm going to be interested to know what kind of car you're driving around in.
Well, I mean, I don't know any of this stuff.
Name
I'll
of
have
your
to tell you
driver
next week.
/ expert, local expert, fixer.
Egyptologist.
Egyptologist. I'm hoping that he's got an evil monkey sidekick, Indiana Jones style, that's going to befriend you.
I don't think that's ever happened outside of Indiana Jones.
Oh, come on. I love that little monkey, even though he was a little sod. I remember watching that as a kid, thinking I really wanted a pet monkey. I still kind of do, but there you go.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it's not very PC.
I will update you on all of this
Yeah.
and the complete lack of monkey next week. We will try and do a podcast, probably with me in Egypt, because I'm there Monday to Thursday.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might be talking from my 5-star hotel room.
Have you
with
packed
me absolutely exhausted
your Egyptologist outfit? Have you got some linen? You gonna wear some linen, Johnny?
Why would I wear linen in 19 degrees?
Because it's good to be airy. You know, there's lots of sand flying about. You want to look cool, don't you? I mean, looking cool's half of the thing in Egypt. So I imagine Egyptology got to look like you fit in. You know.
Again.
What kind of glasses you going to take? You need some flip-up shades that you can flip down when you want to. You would flip them up when you want to look at an item, right? So you flip those bad boys up.
For the first time in beer travel history, I'm kind of glad you're not coming on a trip.
Oh, come on, Johnny. This would have been amazing. Oh, dear. Well, you know, I'm sure you'll have a great time. I'm looking forward to our hopefully, if we can make it work via satellite phones, we can.
They have Wi-Fi. What? What is this approach? What is? I don't know what your expectations are of Egypt.
Don't know. We'll find out next week.
Perhaps one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world.
Yeah.
In Valley of the Kings.
I've heard it's all right.
Anyway,
it's got some good bits and bobs in it. They've got some old stuff. They've got some
pretty old stuff.
The aliens obviously built it.
The oldest commercial brewery in the world.
Run by...
it's not strictly true.
Run by the Greys? Was it run by the Greys when they built the pyramids, or some other sort of... Who was running it?
The pyramids?
Yeah.
This is way older than the pyramids, mate.
Way older than the pyramids, eh? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's good to know that...
So Abydos is basically the original city of the pharaohs. So it's where they all started out before they went up the Nile.
Yeah.
So it's about 1,500 years older than the pyramids.
That's good, isn't it? It's pretty old.
It's worth...
Is that where
something to blow your mind here, right? Yeah. So Cleopatra.
Yeah, I know. We're closer in time. I know this stat. Go on.
Yeah,
go for the stat.
We're closer in time to Cleopatra than Cleopatra is to the brewery.
Yeah,
by thousands of years.
It's wild. It is wild. That time scale of ancient Egypt is bonkers.
It's like three and a bit thousand.
Are you near the Stargate, Johnny? Is that where you are? Where your site is, near the Stargate, or further away?
Sure.
Are you an original Stargate film fan or the TV show? Because they changed it from Kurt Russell, one of my all-time heroes, to MacGyver, who's also pretty good. So yeah, they changed. I don't know. I think he was the same character, but he was Kurt Russell, and then they were like, "Shit, Kurt Russell doesn't want to do a TV show. Who else is awesome and like manly and can rock alien technology? Oh yeah, we've got MacGyver. We've got MacGyver in our back pocket. He's come from TV. He'll be well up for it." So, do you watch either of those?
I have never watched anything Stargate.
Dude.
Not even for a second.
Come on. It's basically a history film about how aliens, the Goa'uld or something, were the ancient rulers of Egypt and oppressed the human population.
So when you say it's basically a history film, it's very much not.
Oh no, it's nothing to do with actual history. No, just fanciful, fancy. Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Brad, let's talk about the video.
Come on then. I've been putting it off, Johnny, because I'm a bit sad. But yeah, let's talk about it.
So this week's video was something we filmed back in November, and I was editing away very happily until last week, when it was announced that North Brew were going into administration. As a bit of background, when we were there couldn't have been fewer signs that this was a struggling business, right?
No, it was incredibly vibrant, incredibly busy. Like they were brewing third brew of the day, and it was I think 2 PM or something. It seemed like full steam ahead for sure.
And they were very generous. They were giving us all kinds of samples. It just felt like a vibrant, successful, exciting, growing brewery. And it was all of those things, I guess, except successful, because it wasn't able to service its debts, which it accrued through the pandemic, through COVID, perhaps COVID loans, maybe, and with crazy inflation and massive price increases across hops and malts and yeast, and they weren't able to make the margins that they needed to service those debts. So I heard that news and I texted you and was like, what the hell? And you were like, what the hell? And what do we do? Do we hold off until we know what the result is? Do we want to put a video live of something that's owned by AB InBev, or something that's now closed? Or do we want to interfere with the process in any way by putting a video live? Is it dangerous? Is it unhelpful? Or is it helpful to put it live during the administration process? And we decided that really, we couldn't know any of those things, and the best thing to do was to plough on as normal, but put a thing at the start explaining exactly what had happened, and to talk about how this was far from a unique case, that wonderful, vibrant breweries are closing all over the world and all over the UK right now as a result of larger global headwinds, but also some pretty monumental, ambivalence from British politicians.
Well, yeah, there's obviously a multitude of factors in any sort of culmination of anything that happens like this, but we've got a very uncaring government in place that are not supporting businesses. That place is on, in every sort of metric, looks like it should be doing really well. Like, great people running it, great beer production, in supermarkets at volume, making really interesting stuff to keep, all the craft beer scene excited. And yet they still can't make it work because the financial factors and things are just too overwhelming in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth considering. We've had lots of comments, wondering how it could be this way, and a couple of people sort of saying, is it down to that heavy presence in supermarkets? And that might be a fair comment, because if you look at a brewery of a similar size, someone like, say, Verdant, the margins that Verdant will be getting off of a very busy web shop, off of Verdant is expensive beer in independent bottle shops, and they're not in any supermarkets. If they're selling a similar amount of beer purely themselves and via the independent trades, they're going to be making a lot more money off every sort of pint they sell.
Yeah.
So definitely that's going to have played into it. But then equally, it was the timing of that expansion, and it was interesting talking to Christian about that expansion, which was bold, but none of us knew how long COVID was going to last. When it first happened, we thought it was going to be one lockdown, and it would be done, because back then we'd never had this before. We'd heard of strange viruses coming from China before, and it never reached our shores. So we thought this one was the worst it was going to get with one lockdown. And so I do understand why they took that decision. But it was interesting because then later in our interview, we talked about how they opened the pub. Was it just before, perhaps? Or maybe they didn't know a financial crash was coming. But, they've been really unlucky. They opened a pub and, lost incredible amounts of money in 2007. And they ended up doing the same in 2020. So, I'd probably put that down to rotten luck, and a little bit of, I guess, like, excitable hot-headedness.
It's rotten luck, but I think that is testament to them as individuals, that they have belief in themselves, they have belief in their vision, and they're obviously massive optimists, and
should be, because the thing I also want to point out in the comments is they have many incredibly successful pubs.
Yeah.
This is not, it's not that they've run two businesses and they both failed. They have an incredibly successful bar chain.
Yeah. It's
so the idea of sort of malpractice, I don't think quite washes.
No.
But the video was very exciting, and the beer they made was fantastic. And you and Seb had a great segment walking around and tasting those beers. We even had to, we did in the cellars do a tasting of that beer that was on the canning run. But because we'd already talked about it pretty extensively, it was a shame you weren't drinking it when you were talking about it at the canning line.
Yeah,
I couldn't quite sort of squeeze it in and keep the video where I try to keep it, which is ideally no more than 30, but inevitably slightly more than 30.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, wow, what a depth and breadth of beers we had drinking. Me and Seb going around, like everything was amazing, everything was unique. You know, the kind of the natural winey one that was like just phenomenal. I mean, I came away being even more excited about North than I was before I got there, and that was saying 100%. Something. You know, like I think those guys are great, and I love the Refold packaging, the graphic designer. I love his work; he's brilliant. They've got a great brand there, and I really hope that they can, make it work, and that we're going to get some positive news.
Well, I have been talking to people in the industry completely off the record, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping there's a positive resolution.
Yeah.
From what I can see, it's not pointing towards complete closure.
No.
Hey, Beer Geeks. So to give you a peek behind the veil, this podcast was actually recorded pretty late on Thursday afternoon. And immediately after we finished recording, it was announced that North Brew had been saved, or rather bought out of administration, by Steve Holt. Not that Steve Holt, but the Steve Holt that owns Kirkstall Brewery, a great brewery also in Leeds. So he purchased the 3 tap rooms and the Springwell Brewery that were sort of in that company, and has rescued it, saved all jobs for the time being, and John and Christian and Seb will continue to run the brewery. So in terms of good news, that's about as good as it can possibly get given that situation. Things might develop, things might change, but at least the future of the brewery for now is assured. So just a quick note that happened after we recorded this podcast. We've left the rest of the podcast as it was, because even though we don't know that news at that point, everything we say is still relevant and hopefully interesting. Did you find any interesting comments?
Sure did, Johnny. I haven't got any on my phone right now. Let me just grab them up on the screen. Just looking back at pictures of Kinds of Cask in Margate.
Shall I read mine while you find yours?
Go on, yeah.
So I picked out a comment from AT02129. He said, living in Leeds, the shock that such a giant of the local scene and craft beer in general are facing administration is hugely disappointing. As you alluded to in the start of the video, the sheer lack of support from the government in any capacity is the root of the problem. I wouldn't say it's the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not lack of support from the government, but mistakes by the government, aka Brexit, dealing with COVID. Smaller breweries around near myself are completely having to wipe any plans to expand in any capacity because they cannot survive without help. We lost Ridgeside at the same time, North and administration. I didn't know Ridgeside had gone under. I've had some good beer from them. It's. I picked out this comment because it shows that for every brewery you hear of closing, there's probably another one that you didn't hear was closing, and it's probably for very similar reasons. But the other thing, and I wrote about this, if I remember, I'll put a link in the pod description. I wrote an article for Good Beer Hunting called Final Gravity, and it's about the kind of the cultural loss that will come after COVID. And basically I was saying the closures won't happen straight away. They'll take 2 or 3 years, and I think we're in that phase now. But it's not just the breweries that close, it's the breweries that don't expand, the business plans that are torn up as a result, because there is no funding for expansion. So, it's not just breweries we lose, it's all the kind of these ghosts of breweries that should have existed, whether they already exist or whether they were thinking of founding, but have just torn up their business plans. And there's so many. When I talk to breweries around the UK and I go, how are you doing? And everyone, pretty much universally, the response is, well, we're surviving. Lots of them have had pubs they wanted to buy, pubs they wanted to open, tap rooms they were going to expand, expansions in the brew house they were going to put in action, none of which is going to happen, and none of which will happen for 5-10 years if we're lucky, all because of this domino effect of Brexit, then COVID, then massive inflation and cost hikes, and then inflation. So yeah, we it's very hard to calculate the actual loss that has been caused by that in the UK.
It's like a sort of perfect storm of shitness, isn't it? Basically, everything is against them at the moment. Like it's ongoing.
We have the government then changing the duty.
Yeah.
Which has really not helped either, unless you're a cask ale producer or very good at making table beer. You know, those are the only people that benefit from that. Or Carlsberg, who can just lower their beer by 3% and rake in a massive tax bonus. So yeah, it's dark times, and we will never know what these things actually cost the brewing industry. Any happy comments, Brad?
Well, I've got well, that's a hard one on this video, I think, happy comments. But I've got one about an American brewery in a minute, which I'll talk about. But first of all, from Aaron Nerding, he commented on one of our videos at the beginning of last year, stating the most important thing for breweries now is interest and people supporting them. Local pubs, taproom, and bottle shops too. It was very difficult last year. This year will be equally difficult. So I will say the same: use them or lose them. So that is key as well, isn't it? We always say support your local bottle shop, support your independents, support your, if you want it in your community, you've got to be a patron of it, because they won't be there if we don't.
And if you can't be a patron, if you're trying to drink less, can't afford it, whatever it is, encourage your friends to go. If somebody says, "Oh, do you know a place?" Give them those reps.
Well, that's it as well. It's about awareness, isn't it? And support, and say they're doing events where you don't necessarily have to drink, but because lots of breweries are quite good at that as well, aren't they? As well, they'll have other things happening at the brewery, whether it's a craft fair or a gig, or a knitting class or something like that. I think we might see more of that, where we're kind of trying to make these spaces more community spaces and stuff as well. So I thought that was an interesting comment, which is relevant wherever you find yourself. You've got to kind of support your local team, whether they be a snooker player, a darts wizard, or a banging small brewery in a basement of a micro pub, which you didn't know was there. It's at all levels of this thing, Johnny. We've had comments about hard Brexit. We didn't really go into that, but I think obviously that was a massive shit sandwich as well.
Yeah, suicidal. Yeah.
I mean, well, it's just we've basically handed in our resignation notice as a country when we did hard Brexit.
Wow.
We're like, okay, we give up now. We're not a serious player anymore.
Yeah, serious is the right one.
Yeah. And then this comment from Jeff PM. I don't know if that means Jeff Prime Minister or whatever it means. Jeff PM.
He'd do a better job than Rishi.
He probably would. I think he's American. He says, why can't the Treehouse business model work for them? Similar size company. So I think you did say they're not a similar size company.
No, nowhere close.
But it is interesting, isn't it? Think about that, right? How you go to Treehouse and everyone's queuing and they're buying 24 packs and whatever, and they've got little cargo trolleys that they're taking away, massive boxes of beer, and you don't really see that over here. And there are reasons for that, which I'm sure you can tell us about, Johnny.
Well, I mean, the main one is cost.
Yeah.
If you try to buy, say somebody goes and gets a case of double IPA from Treehouse, it's going to cost you around about 4 times as much to do that in the UK.
Yeah,
because our beer is absurdly expensive in package. But it's also the culture in America. So in America, so much more beer is drunk at home than is drunk in bars, whereas in the UK, certainly until very recently, it was the absolute opposite. And now we're at about 50-50 in the UK in terms of what's drunk in the on-trade, i.e. out, and off-trade, i.e. at home. So breweries having sort of web shops and takeaway options, it's just not the same volume for breweries. So they can't put that much into small pack and sell it all. And then I guess the final thing to say is that it's much more expensive to run a brewery itself in the UK than it is in the US.
Like business rate, utility bills, all that kind of stuff. The price of electricity and everything.
Buying the hops and everything. So I'm not going to say it's harder to run a brewery in the UK. I wouldn't say that, but in terms of the actual money that goes into it, the margins are going to be smaller and the volumes are going to be much smaller. Because like say in the UK, everyone in the UK probably has like 10 breweries within say an hour of their house. If you're in a city, you've got 10 breweries within probably an hour of walking from your house. In America, that's not the case. You can have a very large regional brewery that is almost has kind of a monopoly on that area, and that's certainly true of Treehouse probably more when they started. They've got this huge backyard to pull in customers, whereas in the UK, smaller population, much closer together, everybody's competing with everybody. And it's much harder to build those more kind of regional businesses. You have to reach out and start competing, in markets where you don't have salespeople and all kinds of stuff. It's a very different prospect. So comparisons between US and UK aren't very helpful in terms of business models, at least.
No. I wish it was more like America, in that you could.
Yeah, and I mean there are breweries that can do something vaguely similar. Verdant's web shop and Deya's web shop. I think these are, if you're making the right style and you're doing it exceptionally well, you might be able to sell a huge amount direct to consumer, but it's going to be via a web shop, and it's still not going to be anywhere like a Treehouse model where 95% of what they sell is consumed on one of their premises. Is
bonkers.
It's just not remotely viable in the UK, sadly.
No.
So I mean, a tough way to end the podcast, I guess, because it was very sad news, but we really wanted that video to be a celebration of North, whatever happened, I guess, and to show just how hard it is, even if you do have this vibrant, innovative, wonderfully run brewery. It's sometimes not enough. And I'm sure, that's true of lots of industries right now. There's lots of businesses that don't deserve to go under and will be greatly missed going under. And brewing's not unique to that. But I think that there is something unique in the importance that beer plays as, the old social glue, the social networking aspect of pubs and all this kind of stuff. Beer is at the centre of our entire culture in the UK. And when the government decides to do nothing to help, it's kind of saying we don't care about most people's culture in this country.
No, we're working on that, Johnny, aren't we? In our small way, we're gonna try. We're gonna try.
We are. I'm very pleased to say there has been some progress with UNESCO and Cask.
Mm-hmm.
My book is all about beer's central role to society, and obviously the whole idea of the Craft Beer Channel is to get people excited about good, ethically made and sold beer, and we'll always continue doing that and trying to support the people that do that and struggle. And we should maybe close this off by saying a massive thanks to North, not just for having us in November, but for being Patreon supporters for years.
Yeah, man.
In the financial situation they were in, they still saw the importance of supporting us, and I feel a bit bad about that now. But,
I don't think our Patreon support would have hurt them that much.
I don't think that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
No.
But it's not very expensive to support us on Patreon.
How much did it mean to us, though, Johnny? It means the world, right? Anyone that is a Patreon for us is keeping us going, essentially, and keeping the lights on. So to have, and also the respect we have for these breweries and other people that are in the industry that are pro Patreons. I'm always overwhelmed by the people that obviously see worth in what we're doing and want to support it. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, from me as well, North, we love you, and thank you for the support over the years. And we hope we can repay some of that support back to you, because you are an asset to this community that we're in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Well, hopefully there will be a podcast and a video next week. All is contingent on Egypt and Wi-Fi and how much time and energy I have at the end of the day. But follow our Instagram, because I will be putting as many updates as I can up so you can see the wild adventures that I'm having in Luxor in Egypt. Until then, love and beer. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/The Craft Beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food, and homebrewing. Love and beer.